here. What pushed the ingress? What's made the PLA pull back? Is it setting the stage for a thaw in India-China ties? Suspense still looms over whether there will be a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping at the BRICS summit in Kazan. What does this mean for the two most important countries in the global south? And all that and more is my top focus on the Newstrack.
LSA truce done. Bilateral next. Big suspense on Modi-Xi meet. India-China handshake at BRICS. Can Modi-Xi bury ghost of Galwan? Borders, breakthroughs, BRICS. That is our top focus on Newstrack.
Before we go across live to Kazan, where the big BRICS summit is taking place, India's Prime Minister and the Iranian President in a bilateral meeting at this moment, given the focus that Iran has been in the Middle East over the past few weeks. That meeting assumes significance. We'll get you ground reports. Before that, let me take you through the headlines. I'm tracking. PM Modi holds bilateral meeting with Russian President Putin, says India believes in peaceful solution to conflicts. PM says India ready to offer all help.
हमारा मानना है कि समस्याओं का समाधान शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से ही होना चाहिए। हमारे सभी प्रयास मानवता को प्रमुखता देते हैं। आने वाले समय में भी भारत हर संभव सहयोग देने के लिए तैयार है।
Bengaluru crumbles after non-stop rains. 3 dead after an under-construction building collapses. Yelahanka Lake overflows and floods apartment complexes. Potholes plague the city. Both alliances in Maharashtra finalize seat sharing ahead of polls. Sources say BJP will get the lion's share of 152 to 155 seats in the Mahayuti. In the Agadi, Congress set to get 105 to 110 seats. Over 75 flights get bomb hoax calls today. Fresh threats to Air India, Vistara, Indigo and Akasa. Aviation Minister speaks to India today, says government will amend air safety laws. Tamil Nadu Deputy Chief Minister Udayanidhi Stalin refuses to apologize for his eradicate Sanatan remark. Stalin Jr. says he said nothing wrong. Ugly scuffle erupts in the Waqf JPC meeting. Trinamool MP Kalyan Banerjee smashes bottle, injures himself during the meeting. Banerjee suspended for a day, barred from attending the next JPC meeting. Suspense hangs over whether there will be a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping at the Kazan BRICS summit in Russia. Yesterday, when India announced, and this morning China confirmed that there will be a pullback along the line of actual control, there was a lot of talk about the possibility of there being a bilateral today. Tomorrow is the summit, and then Prime Minister Modi leaves in the evening tomorrow. So now that that bilateral hasn't happened, there are questions about whether there will be a bilateral at all. Now the decks have been cleared for the bilateral. For the latest on this, I'm joined now live from Kazan by our Strategic Affairs Editor Gaurav Sawant. Gaurav, do we know when and whether a bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping will be taking place?
Rahul, we are told it's likely to take place in the next 24 hours and it could be earlier. Right now, it's a bilateral with Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian. There's already been one with Russian President Vladimir Putin, as we're well aware. The third bilateral remains, which everyone's, talking about and considers extremely crucial, is one between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. From what sources tell India today, it's just an issue of scheduling. It's most likely taking place tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon in middle of the BRICS summit. Or they're both trying to find one window where the two will interact. It will be more than just a handshake, is what sources tell India today, and that higher direction to take this relationship forward. Because so far the agreement, Rahul, is only on disengagement of troops. Does it also mean de-escalation? Does it also mean de-induction? Because that is something that India is very keen on, to ensure that there is no one accidental discharge of weapon, two weapons that can cause massive destruction, whether it's the artillery or the armor or the mechanized forces. They move back initially in terms of de-escalation and then move back to their peacetime locations in terms of de-induction. Once that happens, the relationship is on an even keel, and that can only happen when that higher direction of war comes or peace comes from the Prime Minister of India and the President of China. What is India insisting on? It's insisting on equal and mutual security. And equal and mutual security very clearly means China can mobilize much faster. China can bring in better forces and stronger forces more quickly to the line of actual control compared to India. India's infrastructure development is still taking some time. A lot of it has still happened. So equal and mutual security, Rahul, would mean that China moves its forces back much further. India moves its forces back some distance, because that trust factor has been shattered by Chinese actions in the summer of 2020. While China may seek to blame India, but there have been two instances, one in Doklam in 2017 and the second in Galwan and all across eastern Ladakh in 2020. So 2017 and 2020 have been two instances where all the agreements that India and China painstakingly arrived at between 1993 to 1996 to 2014 was unfortunately thrown out of the window. The Mahabalipuram, Wuhan declaration, all of them China completely ignored when its forces came charging forward to be stalled by the Indian forces virtually at the gates, and on the north and south bank of Pengong Tso. But one crucial aspect, Rahul, has been India's QPQ or quid pro quo operations that had taken place on the Kailash Hills on north and south bank of Pengong Tso, which showed China two things. One, India has strength, and two, India is willing to use that strength to defend our borders. And the past 4 years, the mirror deployment has also indicated that. Will this strength lead to peace? Shakti se Shanti? That remains to be seen in the next 24 hours.
We have to
and then the
spend
days
some
and weeks
time analyzing what's going on in the Dragon's Head, because they came in unannounced, caught the Indian Army initially off guard. Then the Indian Army built up deployments, stood man to man, shoulder to shoulder across the line of actual control. Now they're pulling back. What's really going on here? What's at play? Why did they come in? Why are they going back? What's the larger picture, larger messaging? We need to decode that. But I just want to spend some time on the other important bilateral that happened today, the Modi-Putin dosti, which was on full display as the two leaders met on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. In their third meeting in the last 3 months, Prime Minister Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin greeted each other with a hug. PM Modi also reiterated his message of peace to Vladimir Putin amidst Russia's ongoing war with Ukraine, batting for dialogue and diplomacy as the only solution to resolving conflict.
एक्सेलेंसी, रूस और यूक्रेन के बीच चल रहे संघर्ष के विषय पर हम लगातार संपर्क में रहे हैं। जैसा मैंने पहले भी कहा है, हमारा मानना है कि समस्याओं का समाधान शांतिपूर्ण तरीके से ही होना चाहिए। शांति और स्थिरता की जल्द से जल्द बहाली का हम पूरी तरह समर्थन करते हैं। हमारे सभी प्रयास मानवता को प्रमुखता देते हैं। आने वाले समय में भी भारत हर संभव सहयोग देने के लिए तैयार है।
Принять целый ряд важных решений, направленных на дальнейшее совершенствование деятельности объединения и укрепление многопланового сотрудничества в его рамках.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी,
У нас такие отношения, что я считал, что вы и так все понимаете.
हमारे इतने रिश्ते हैं कि मुझे ऐसा लगा कि आपको कोई अनुवाद नहीं चाहिए.
So the Modi-Putin bonhomie on display there. The big suspense though at the moment is about whether there will be indeed an India-China bilateral in Russia. Hours before Prime Minister Modi's departure, India announced a big breakthrough in Ladakh. Today, China officially confirmed the agreement with India to resolve the border standoff. The thaw is significant both strategically and diplomatically. Here's how.
A border breakthrough by India and China. A path that leads to the end of the big Ladakh standoff. A day after India made the surprise declaration that a resolution towards peace had been achieved, China has also confirmed a pact with India to end the standoff between the two armies in eastern Ladakh.
Over a recent period of time, China and India have been in close communication through diplomatic and military channels on issues related to China-India border. Now the two sides have reached resolutions on relevant matters, which China speaks highly of. Going forward, China will continue to work with India to implement these resolutions.
The details remain broad. No deals are ever straightforward with China, and the road to the agreement hasn't been an easy one. It was a result of weeks of intense diplomatic and military negotiations. Caution is probably a good idea before celebrating any real breakthrough, but according to government sources, several meetings involving both the Ministry of External Affairs and the Indian Army did take place, with discussions focused on ensuring smooth patrolling in areas where disengagement has already occurred in eastern Ladakh. But the Depsang and Demchok areas presented unique challenges due to their strategic importance and heightened tensions. Rebuilding trust will be key.
The Chinese side is wanting to restore the relationship between India and China to what it was earlier. It wants the other aspects of the relationship like trade, commerce, investment to move ahead. It will of course take some time to restore the trust between the two countries, but at least I think a beginning can be made.
India and China have come to an agreement about normal patrolling and that there will be disengagement, and the Foreign Secretary says that we are now looking at the resolution of the problem which arose in 2020. This is welcome, but let me put it this way: trust but verify.
The timing of the thaw is also crucial. India improving ties with China comes just when it is being hounded by Western powers over alleged operations to kill pro-Khalistani terrorists in those countries. Many experts believe a defreeze in India-China ties could pose a new challenge to the United States. In fact, that could very much be why the two countries have found an opportunity to at least try setting aside their differences. The possibility of India and China going further in resolving their various other disputes will worry the United States, that thinks India has an important role to play in policing the Indo-Pacific to contain Chinese influence. Closer ties between Russia, China and India could also establish the global South as a counterweight to Western hegemony in a world at war. Bureau Report, India Today.
India and China have agreed to disengage in eastern Ladakh, but militarily, what happens next? What are the specific changes in the standoff frontier in eastern Ladakh, where the two armies are still amassed each other? How will the next steps, disengagement, de-escalation, de-induction, how are the next steps likely to proceed? Take a look at this report.
After over 4 years in a frozen war-like situation, 17 meetings at the diplomatic level and 21 border meets between the two armies, a surprise declaration from the two sides locked in the world's biggest military standoff. India and China unveil a big step forward. A day after India announced a jointly achieved resolution to resume army patrolling by both sides on the tense frontier, China confirmed the pact. As a first step, the two armies will disengage from long-standing friction points in the Depsang Bulge in northern Ladakh, where China has wrested an advantage for years, and the Charding Ningling Nala in southeastern Ladakh's Demchok sector, where the Indian army dominates. As a second step, the most significant result of the resolution will be a resumption of patrolling by the Indian army in the Depsang and Demchok areas. The third step will involve the other three friction points, which emerged in May 2020. That is, the Galwan Valley, Gogra Hot Springs and the banks of the Pangong Lake. The buffer zones created following the June 2020 clash in Galwan will slowly give way to a resumption in routine patrolling by both armies under strictly agreed protocols. With disengagement completed and frontline troops pulled back, and patrolling resuming along the LAC, the two militaries will then de-escalate, which involves soothing temperatures by pulling back war-ready weaponry and equipment from the border areas, including tanks, vehicles, missiles, artillery, radars and more. The last phase will be de-induction, where both armies will shift out the divisions they've massed at the Ladakh border in order to check each other, leaving a pre-2020 routine military presence.
As far as we are concerned, we were looking at that we want to go back to the status quo of April 2020. Point number one. Thereafter, we will be looking at disengagement, de-escalation, normal management of line of actual control. And this normal management of line actual control will not just stop there. There are phases in that also. So this what I am saying, it's have been our stance from April 20 itself when General Y.K. Joshi was the army commander, and even today that remains the same way. So as of now, what has happened? We are trying to restore the trust. How the trust will get restored? It will get restored once we are able to see each other. And we are able to convince each other, look, the buffer zones which are there, which have been created, we are not creeping. And both have to reassure each other. Patrolling gives you that kind of advantage.
The resolution achieved by the two countries won't reflect overnight, nor should it be expected that things will run as smoothly as described. After all, with China, nothing is ever what it seems. Chinese intentions, an enormous trust deficit, and mutual lessons learned from the ongoing standoff mean things will be slow and deliberate. But with both sides at least reaching a resolution, this is the first big sign of an overall thaw. For the Indian military, the guard will never be down. Bureau Report, India Today.
The Chinese army came into areas which India used to patrol along the line of actual control without any warning or justification in the summer of 2020. We've been trying to push back for the last 4.5 years. Now suddenly the Chinese have agreed to turn back and also take some of their troops back. The specifics will get spelled out in the time to come, and of course India will verify, but that's at least what the Chinese Foreign Office seems to have confirmed, along with what the Indian side put out in the public domain. So what's really at play? Why did they come in? They never fully explained that. Why are they pulling out? There's no proper justification for it. Of course, India is delighted that they're pulling out, but then why? So what's at play? What's the larger, bigger picture? And will this Modi-Xi bilateral happen? I'm joined at this moment by Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, Distinguished Fellow at the Viveka International Foundation. We have Kamal Sibbal, one of India's best known foreign secretaries, joining us on this broadcast. Nitin Gokhale joins us. He's joining us from Kazan, so he has his ear on the ground, give us a sense of what's happening. We have Raymond Vikri, he's at the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS. I have NR Tenjen joining us from the Tahi Institute in China. I want to go across to Nitin Gokhale first. Nitin, will this bilateral happen? When will it happen? It could have happened this evening, it hasn't happened. Why is it being pushed to tomorrow? Is there still uncertainty, or is it just a formality that it will take place tomorrow?
I think it's just a formality. As you heard Gaurav saying it, I'm hearing the same input that there are scheduling issues because the BRICS is supposed to be the main focus here. All other countries are here, and I am sure the BRICS organizers, especially host Russia, doesn't want the China-India meeting or India-China meeting to overshadow BRICS, but it will inevitably do so when it takes place. But if it's a scheduling issue, then there's going to be a short meeting because if it hasn't happened so far, then I don't see that happening tonight. Now it will have to be tomorrow, and tomorrow is a packed day for BRICS agenda. So it could be just a short meeting with both the leaders putting a stamp of approval to the first step of disengagement that has been announced by India and then confirmed by China. So that's where.
No, so what's your best sense of why the Chinese have agreed to pull back at this time? There was talk that this could happen at the time of the G20 summit in Delhi. It didn't happen. There have been other opportunities when Modi and Xi could have met. It didn't happen. At this moment, why now? And to what extent will they actually pull back?
I can only speculate, Rahul, because we still don't know why they came in 2020. There have been several theories on that. I have my own theory. Other people have their own theory. But what I can sense or what I can see right now is the geopolitical churn, the Chinese themselves facing internal issues, challenges. I won't say problems, but challenges. And then constant hammering by the Quad countries against China. All that may have put together. But one big reason one must understand also is the physical stalling of the Chinese advances that India did immediately after being caught off guard in the initial stage of the standoff since May 2020. Would also make China rethink their strategy because it did not achieve what they wanted fully. They may have tried to push us back, push India back, but it didn't happen. And India is the only country, remember, which has stood firmly physically against Chinese aggression, despite all the big talk which happens in South China Sea, which happens in East China Sea. Neither Japan nor United States has been able to help either Vietnam or Philippines, but India is the only country. So there could have been a rethink. There could be also geopolitical considerations, but that's all I can think of right now. This is just half a step, like I said yesterday. Too early to be euphoric, too early to be elated. Let's wait and watch and wait for the details to come out.
Nitin Gokhale, I don't want to hold you back because you have a lot of reporting of your own to do, for joining us from Kazan. Thank you. I want to go across to Kamal Sibbal. So you're a past master at the world of diplomacy. We don't know for sure, and the Chinese haven't explained why they've come in. While they've confirmed that there will be disengagement, there is no actual reasoning or rationale laid out for why they are moving back at this moment. From all the dots that you can join, what can you tell our viewers? Why are they pulling back? Is it because of economic turmoil within China? Is it because of geopolitical factors? Why do you think they're pulling back at this time?
Well, it's not as if this has happened suddenly. After all, there have been 16 rounds of talks at the diplomatic level, 21 rounds of talks at the military level. So it's been a slow, steady progress where each side has stated its case and tried to find some common ground. Now, as our foreign minister said a few days ago, that 75% of the issues had been resolved, and there remain 25%, which means that the 75% issues that got resolved was a progress that was made during the course of negotiations. Now, the last bits that remain, actually there are two issues, Depsang and Demchok. But in addition to that, the resumption of patrolling in the areas that were declared as buffer zones. Now, what has happened, obviously, is that the Chinese side and the Indian side have agreed to allow the resumption of patrolling on Demchok and Depsang. It seems that an agreement has been reached on patrolling, but whether the exact modalities have been agreed, whether the protocols have been agreed to, that remains unclear. My understanding is that after having the broad agreement, now the nitty-gritty will be decided and the new protocols would be agreed upon. One thing one needs to keep in mind, that we had the 1993, 1996, 2005, 2013 agreements on border management. Now, those haven't worked. Now, we can't go back to the same agreements in the same way and be assured that those agreements will work this time. Therefore, some new areas of understanding, some new protocols, some new steps in border management, which will rebuild trust, will have to be agreed. The second is that I don't think at this moment we are discussing de-escalation or moving back to the positions that two sides occupied.
De-induction, yeah.
Or de-induction. I don't think this is on the cards. And this has come out also in the remarks of the Chief of Army Staff, that first we have to build trust. And this patrolling, and the fact that the two would then be able to do this patrolling without confrontation would slowly begin to build trust.
Okay.
For us, it's very difficult to de-induct, or for that matter, even to de-escalate, because we don't know what the Chinese intentions are.
Sure. So let's try and understand Chinese intention to the extent that can be discussed in public. NR Tenzin joins us. There's a lot of talk in India about why the PLA has agreed to pull back at this time. From your understanding of the Chinese mind and what's going on inside mainland China, how can you explain this? The reasons for coming in weren't fully explained, and now how do you explain the moment when they've agreed to pull back?
Well, I see it a little differently, and I think so does Beijing. First off, during the general election, Modi, I think, believed that the U.S. was not backing him. In fact, they were criticizing him. There were a lot of allegations that were leveled against him and his government. Shortly after the election, there was an announcement that Jaishankar was going to work on the border issues. Modi went to Moscow. The optics of a Modi-Putin hug was not welcome in Washington. Shortly thereafter, Bangladesh becomes an issue. There's suspicions that the U.S. was pushing regime change there in order to punish India. Then the Five Eyes lining up behind Canada, hints not only at racial bias, but also that this is a geopolitical issue that is becoming there. Now, in the background of this, you have India has become the second largest supplier of what Washington has termed sensitive exports, including microchips, circuits, and machine tools, over 60 million in both April and May of this year, double what it was before, to Russia. So the Europeans are not happy. They've turned their back on India. And I think India is making very clear that India is not the Philippines, and that Modi is not Bom Marcos, that India will take its own issues and its own interests first, and it's not going to regard Washington as its tutor or its teacher. So at this point, India has chosen to balance the equation and make it quite clear that they will do what is necessary to help India.
You're giving us a sense of your understanding of the Indian mind. I was asking for your sense of the understanding of the Chinese mind about why they've agreed to pull back at this time. Is it to do with internal economic turmoil, an aging population, slowing economy, the real estate bubble, lots of problems in mainland China? Is that what's forced Beijing to pull back?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, if you think about it, the amount of effort that is there in the borders is very small in terms of the Beijing's military issues. Their main issues are not on the border. They're with Taiwan, South China Seas, AUKUS, the Quad, Japan militarization. Quite frankly, from Beijing's point of view, they want to have peace with India. India and China have the largest trade relationship between these two countries. They see a bright future, and quite frankly, since 2013, Xi Jinping has been very clear that the fate of the Asian century rests with China and India. And if India does not disagrees with this idea, that it'll be very hard to escape the kind of colonial, powers that have in the past tried to use Asia by separating it and conquering it.
General Sharma, do you buy that from NR Tenzin and others like him when they say that China seeks peace? Because if it did, it wouldn't have come in so aggressively along the line of actual control, pushing the Indian army to mobilize, build up fortifications, which we now have. Do you trust the PLA at all? Do you think this is just tactical to enable the Modi-Xi bilateral at Beijing, or does it signal a larger thaw in your view, sir?
Thank you, Rahul, for inviting me. The fact of the matter is that what the Chinese did in 2020 was coming for a long time earlier. In 10 to 15 years earlier, things had already started having a little problem. Not only in Eastern Ladakh and many other parts of the border. We know Doklam, we knew what happened in Depsang earlier, what happened in Chuma. So it was happening earlier. What happened in 2020 was a very significant departure on what has happened. And as Ambassador Kamal Sibal has said, it actually jettisoned all the treaties and all the protocols and agreements that were signed earlier in those years after 1993. And the Chinese came and sat down, the PLA came and sat down into a large area, denying us patrolling totally on the Exaichen Plateau. But it was not done earlier at all. This was the first time a thing like that happened in 2020. Now, if you come to today, of course, all these problems that have been stated by our esteemed representative from Hong Kong, understandably those issues are there. But I also, there's this large amount of conjecturing on what's happening in the course of since yesterday. And nobody is actually exactly clear. And reading into these 4 statements that have come out, we are making out scenarios which are based on our own mind and not actually been stated as such. So I don't think that word pullback has been stated by anybody. No pullback has been stated for the PLA at all by anybody who has spoken. All 4 gentlemen, the Foreign Secretary, the External Affairs Minister, the representative of the MOFA, which is from China, or the Chief of Army Staff. Nobody has said there's any pullback involved by the PLA or by the Indian Army. What they've said is that there will be limited disengagement, which means to areas which are not disengaged till now will be disengaged. And then there would be patrolling. Now, where would patrolling take place? And what are the modalities of that patrolling? Would it take place in the areas where buffers have been established? Or is the patrolling going to take place only, say, in the Depsang Plateau where we'll be permitted to go there? So there is a lack of clarity. And I think I want to tamp the enthusiasm saying that ad lib, if we have gone back pre-2020 and we'll be allowed to go to Chardingla or allowed to go across to many other places, there is a positive movement, great positive movement, but I don't think that I personally read into saying that it is going back exactly pre-2020.
Sure. So you're saying don't get carried away with these announcements, trust and verify. Raymond Vickery, how is this being looked at in Washington, D.C.? The fact is that relations between India and the United States have been a bit frosty, particularly because Washington refuses to act against terrorists believing in the Khalistani freedom movement, operating brazenly from Washington and from American soil, despite them continuing to threaten to blow up airlines and stuff, which is pretty bizarre, and that's a whole different matter. But looking at just what's happening currently between India and China and the fact these 2 armies have agreed at this limited disengagement, how is this being viewed in the think tank circles and government circles in DC?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think it's always welcome when there is a move toward peace and away from violence. The whole object of international relations is peace with justice. And from the U.S. point of view, a recognition of the rule of law in international affairs. Now, that having been said, there is a long way to go, and unfortunately, a history of China not living up to its commitments. There are many questions that remain. Ladakh is a part of the picture, but really a small part of the picture. Does China still claim an entire Indian state, Arunachal Pradesh, which has been its stance, and what are its stance on other matters? I don't think there's any question that China wants to have the market of India. China's economy is not doing that well. I do think it's interesting that this comes at the time of this BRICS summit when Vladimir Putin wants to try to make it all about fighting the United States' anti-Western approach. There's no question in my mind, no question I think in the mind of policymakers here in Washington, that India and the United States have very much in common and a lot more in common than do China and India or even Russia and India. So I think, yes, this is an interesting development, one which is to be welcome, but there's a long way to go. And it seems to me that it does, though, detract from sort of the anti-Western approach that Vladimir Putin would like to have the focus on BRICS, which indicates to me that while China and Russia are joined at the hip on many matters, they're perhaps not on the same page in regard to the overall picture and the interests of their two nations.
Ambassador Kanwal, how is this likely to be perceived, in your view, in the Western world? China and Russia very closely aligned on multiple hot-button geopolitical issues at this moment. India has been the balance player, largely with the United States and Western allies, but also keeping the equation warm and hot with China, with Russia before this, and now attempting a thaw with China. What's the message, the BRICS summit, outside of just the India-China bilateral, this larger BRICS summit and everything that's happening, what's the message being sent to the rest of the world?
I think the message is very clear. And the message was very clear when the Russia-India-China forum first got established, and I was still in office then. Then it got enlarged to BRIC with Brazil and then BRICS with South Africa. Initially, it was a forum to resist the phase of United States unilateralism. And then it had a much wider agenda to have much broader cooperation between the BRICS countries so that there can be an alternative view of how the globe should be governed and alternative methods of relating to each other, promoting multilateralism, reform of the international institutions, and all the agenda that is well known. And multipolarity, of course, was at the heart of it. And now that the BRICS is attracting almost 30 countries who want to become part of it in some way or the other, it is quite clear that the momentum that was started with RIC, BRIC and BRICS has now gained so much strength that now other countries also want to hedge and want to escape what they see has been decades of Western hegemony in the global system.
Raymond Vikri, let's spend a moment on the point that Ambassador Sibal makes, the fact that you've now got a powerful body which is being expanded, important players like Iran coming on board, clearly countries which are not on the same view as the Western world. It's arguably at this moment, and particularly if India and China are not in quarrel anymore and they have a reasonable working relationship, it arguably is the most significant counterweight to the Western world and Western institutions.
Well, I don't think that's the fact. There's a very vast difference among the various BRICS players in terms of what the approach should be. I think Putin and Russia would like to turn it into some sort of quasi-military alliance against the West. I don't think India subscribes to that at all. I think that it's really quite ironic that the name and the designation BRICS originated with an American investment banking firm, Goldman Sachs, and went from there. But now that it's no longer original members and it's being expanded vastly, it seems to me that the value to great democracies like India is in being able to discuss issues which affect the members of BRICS. But I don't see it as developing into much more than what it has been in the past.
Okay. I just want to tell our viewers that what you see on your screen right now are visuals, the first images that we are getting of the bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Modi and the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. So this important meeting taking place just a short while before now. You're seeing these images from there. I want to get a final word in from NR Thanjin on the coherence of BRICS. You know, in the Western world, the Five Eyes share intelligence. They're very sharply aligned in terms of values, in terms of how they see the rest of the world, in terms of what they want from the world. The argument made by our guest in Washington is countries like India, China, Russia see things very differently, and therefore BRICS can never be as cohesive as some of these Western alliances, our Western groupings are.
Well, I would tend to disagree. I mean, if the U.S. was wishing India so well, where's the trade agreement? Why are they constantly attacking India? Remember, let us say that China was not in the mix and it was India who was rising. Do you think for 1 second that the U.S. would not attack India as it did Japan back in the late 70s and early 80s as a threat? Remember, the United States is an empire. We have been at peace for 17 years, arguably, out of 248. The way we think is any difference in terms of race or ideology is a challenge that has to be met with asymmetrical force. India is a civilization. It realizes that force is not the answer, that diplomacy, that recognizing differences and accepting them is the only way that you can have a win-win situation. So at this point, all this talk about alliances and etc. is nonsense. BRICS is not a military alliance. It is simply a group of countries that is expanding rapidly. It's worrying Washington because Washington has failed the world. Have look no further than Gaza and what the Israelis are doing and the fact that the U.S. is supporting it. Understand, the U.S. does not stand for the rule of law. It does not stand for international institutions.
Okay.
It simply stands for itself. Respond to that. That's
I'm out of time. So Raymond Vickery, very quickly, please. I realize that you could be a bit agitated with that response from our guest from Hong Kong, but very quickly, please.
That's an absolute.
I'm in Beijing.
Those are Beijing talking points. It is plain that the United States is not in any way, shape, or form attacking India. That India and the United States are the two largest and greatest democracies in the world. And so obviously China with a top-down authoritarian approach is going to be worried about what goes on in the U.S. But as far as that approach that just stated, that's just false.
Well, the interesting thing about this conversation was you heard a military and diplomatic perspective from India, you heard a perspective from Beijing, you heard from DC, and you got ground reports from Kazan. So you got a good sense of the different balls that are up in the air militarily and diplomatically. We're seeing these images of the meeting of Prime Minister Modi with the Iranian president. Let's see, because you saw that Jappi with Putin. It'll be interesting to see how Prime Minister Modi meets Xi Jinping when that meeting does happen, if there is at all a bilateral, which is quite likely, but when it happens, how long it goes on for, and what it ultimately leads to. So we'll track all of this. Make no mistake, if India and China break the ice post Galwan, it is the most significant story which concerns all of us and so much of the world's population. We'll track this very closely through the day tomorrow as well. Slipping into a break, coming up on the other side. Bengaluru crumbles after non-stop rains. 3 dead after an under-construction building collapses. Details coming up on the other side.
So the weight it came down and collapsed.
Ho ja rangila re with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
एक दोस्त है जिससे बात किए बिना हम रह नहीं सकते, बातें घंटों की हों या कुछ सेकंड्स की। ये दोस्त हमेशा हमारी बात सुनता है, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे अच्छा दोस्त भगवान ही तो है। मंगलदीप, दिल से करो बात भगवान के साथ।
Sveda by Cola. Wish everything cared for your skin.
Ho ja rangila re with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Pure Wash Electronic Seat by Cola. Wish everything was this intelligent.
Ho ja rangila re with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Colors by Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
Pure Wash Electronic Seat by Cola. Wish everything was this intelligent.
Bengaluru seems to be once again crumbling under heavy rainfall and civic apathy. An under-construction building collapsed earlier this evening, killing at least 3 people. 12 more are reportedly trapped under the debris. Rescue operations are underway. A CCTV video of the incident shows the building tilting a full 90 degrees and collapsing like a pack of cards. 3 days of continuous rain have exposed civic decay in Bengaluru. Heavy downpour caused severe waterlogging in low-lying areas. Potholes also caused 2 accidents in the city.
One second. We got the information from the city control at about 5:30. I was in the office. I rushed straight to this place. The information I came to know after coming here is that one person was declared dead and he's been shifted to the hospital. 5 more are trapped still inside the debris. We are trying to use fire cutters and sniffer dogs to trace the body. Bodies are dead alive, and 9 people have been rescued and sent to hospital for primary treatment.
My colleague Sagai Raj is live from the location in Bengaluru where this building collapse has taken place. What can you tell us, Sagai, about the latest rescue efforts?
The rescue operation is still underway, and you can see that the rescue personnel are using gas cutters, earth-moving equipments to cut all this steel rods which were being used while the construction was happening, and they are trying to rescue close to 4 to 5 people, the construction laborers who are trapped inside this particular debris. They are also using sniffer dogs to find out their location inside the debris to find out where exactly they are. And what we get to learn through our police sources is that they have already found out that they are stuck below this particular floor. And this is a 6th floor building where the permission was not granted by BBMP. According to the local MLA and the officials, the permission was granted only for 4 floors. But still, the contractor here constructed this particular building up to 6 floors, which is a clear violation. And they have used substandard materials to construct this building. According to the eyewitness as well as the laborer who was being rescued, he claims that the building, the basement was not good and they have not used good materials. They were all substandard materials which was being used during the construction of this particular building.
Okay, Sagai Raj, we'll keep coming back to you for more later. This is where I wrap up the Newstrack tonight. Rajdeep Sardesai comes up with news today on the other side of a quick break. Stay with us.
एक दोस्त है जिससे बात किए बिना हम रह नहीं सकते, बातें घंटों की हों या कुछ सेकंड्स की। ये दोस्त हमेशा हमारी बात सुनता है, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे अच्छा दोस्त भगवान ही तो है। मंगलदीप, दिल से करो बात भगवान के साथ।
नया फोन?
बिल्कुल मेरे जैसा।
तेरा ही फोन है। टीम बस में भूल आया था तू। क्रिकेट के बाद का प्लान ऐसे मत भूल जाना भाई।
क्रिकेट के बाद का प्लान मतलब पाजी?
मतलब रिटायरमेंट का प्लान।
इस जनरेशन ने तो उस बारे में सोचा भी नहीं होगा।
नहीं भाई पहले मैच से ही सोचा है, इसलिए तो वो कर रखा है।
वो मतलब क्या?
वही जो सब लोग सही है करते रहते हैं।
म्यूचुअल फंड्स में SIP।
म्यूचुअल फंड्स में SIP। अगर ऐसे भूल भी जाओ ना तो भी रिटायरमेंट का प्लान बैकग्राउंड में चलते रहना चाहिए, ताकि आगे की लाइफ सेट रहे।
सही है।
म्यूचुअल फंड निवेश बाजार जोखिमों के अधीन है। योजना से जुड़े सभी दस्तावेजों को ध्यान से पढ़ें।
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. China confirms agreement with India to end Ladakh border standoff, says it has reached an agreement with India to end the standoff between the armies of the two nations in eastern Ladakh. India extends Taslima Nasreen's residence permit. Taslima expressed her gratitude to Home Minister Amit Shah. Haryana government suspends 24 Agriculture Department officials amid rising farm fire incidents.
रोहिणी में जो भी एक बम ब्लास्ट है, एक तो जहां ब्लास्ट हुआ है, जो उसका असर हुआ है, उसके हिसाब से ये कोई बड़ी साजिश नहीं लगती है। एक भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार है, हम कहे कि हम उसकी जांच करेंगे और जो भी दोषी होगा कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलेगी। आम आदमी पार्टी तो जांच भी नहीं मांगती है पे, अगर उसके ऊपर आरोप लगता है तो।
हमने पुलिस अधिकारियों से बात की है, पता चला है कि CRPF स्कूल की बिल्डिंग के पास बाहर की जो आउटवॉल है उसके पास से एक लो ग्रेड का एक्सप्लोजिव मिला है और किस उद्देश्य से रखा गया पुलिस जांच कर रही है और पुलिस की टीम मौके पे मौजूद है। तो मुझे लगता है हमें जांच का इंतजार करना चाहिए कोई भी टिप्पणी करने से पहले। और लेकिन जहां तक दिल्ली के सुरक्षा की बात है तो आम आदमी पार्टी के ये जो नेता बोल रहे हैं, तुच्छ राजनीति की बात कर रहे हैं, जरा अपने गिरबान में झांक लें।
Pakistani extremists are being encouraged all the time.
Indian High Commissioner to Canada, who was recalled last week, hits out after being named a person of interest in the murder of pro-Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Sanjay Verma, in his first interview, after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Canadian police made the shocking allegations, claimed Ottawa has provided zero evidence to India or any link to Nijjar's killing. Verma, in the interview to CTV, claimed that many Khalistani separatists are assets of the Trudeau government. The envoy questioned why there has been no judicial action taken if there was evidence of his role. Verma accused Trudeau of damaging Indo-Canadian ties to appease pro-Khalistani voices in Canada. Verma's accusations comes days after Trudeau claimed that there is evidence of Indian link to Nijjar's murder.
Law enforcement and intelligence officials began pursuing credible allegations that agents of the government of India were directly involved in the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, on Canadian soil. We responded.
Trudeau's allegations sparked a fresh round of diplomatic standoff between India and Canada that saw the two countries expel diplomats and downgrade ties. The face-off could worsen in the coming months as Canada gets closer to national elections next year. Bureau Report, India Today.
Presented by JK Tyre, Desh Ka Tyre. Co-presented by Greenply, healthy and safe interior ka reply. Co-powered by the bold look of Kohler.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're with the news today, your primetime destination. News, newsmakers, talking points. Our big talking point tonight. Will Prime Minister Modi meet the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping at the BRICS summit? Are India-China ties firmly back on track? Also, our contentious talking point. Are we now going to see a growing South-North divide on population policy? Will Southern Chief Ministers now go ahead and say abandon the two-child policy? We'll raise that question too tonight. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. Prime Minister Modi holds a bilateral meeting with Russian President Putin. Says India believes in peaceful solution to conflicts. Prime Minister says India ready to offer all help. Suspense looms over the Modi-Xi bilateral. China confirms a pact to end the standoff on the border with India but gives no specifics. Army chief says hopeful of a return to pre-Galwan status quo. Bengaluru crumbles after non-stop rains. 3 dead after an under-construction business collapses. Yelahanka Lake overflows and floods apartment complexes. Potholes plague the city. Both alliances in Maharashtra on their last leg of seat sharing. Sources say BJP will get the lion's share of 152 to 155 seats in the Mahayuti. In the Aghadi, the Congress set to get 105 to 110 seats. Over 75 flights get bomb hoax calls just in one day. Fresh threats to Air India, Vistara, Indigo and Akasa. Aviation Minister speaks to India Today, says government will amend air safety laws. Ugly scuffle erupts at the Waqf JPC meeting. Trinamool MP Kalyan Banerjee smashes a bottle, injures himself. Suspended for a day, barred from attending next JPC meeting. He was protesting against what he said was the unfair manner in which the meeting was being conducted. Priyanka Gandhi Vadra all set to make her poll debut. Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi now in Wayanad to file a by-poll nomination tomorrow. Tamil Nadu Deputy Chief Minister Udayanidhi Stalin refuses to apologize for his eradicate Sanatan remark. Stalin Jr. says he said nothing wrong. IMF retains India's GDP growth projection, reaffirms its growth forecast for India at 7% for the fiscal year 2025. The big breaking news at this moment, Prime Minister Modi and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping are at the moment at the BRICS summit in Kazan in Russia, but there is a suspense over whether the two will hold their bilateral. There was much expectation that this summit will see the final break in the, will see a thaw in relations between the two countries that for the last 4 years have been ice cold after what happened in Galwan, where the two countries' forces engaged in a face-to-face conflict. Putin bilateral is done. He's met with Prime Minister Modi, the Russian President, and Mr. Modi held a bilateral a short while ago. The bigger question is, will the meet with Xi be next? That's the question that's unanswered at the moment. There's been much speculation that Xi, who arrived a short while ago in Kazan, will meet the Indian Prime Minister. This comes a day after India announced that the two countries had reached an agreement on their standoff on the border. Let me now go across to Gaurav Sawant, who joins me live from Kazan. Gaurav, what are you picking up about a possible bilateral between the Chinese Premier and the Indian Prime Minister?
Rajdeep, a meeting with President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi could well take place tomorrow. We are told the meeting with the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian just got over moments ago. And when we asked the Iranian President Pezeshkian how was his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, remember it's the first meeting of the two heads of state and government, he said it was a very good meeting. President Pezeshkian has just taken over as President of Iran, and this is an icebreaker, the first meeting between the Iranian President and the Prime Minister of India. But if we were to talk about the meeting between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping, that's likely to take place in the next 24 hours. I'm told there were scheduling issues today. It could not happen today. Even tomorrow is a packed day, packed BRICS summit day. Tomorrow, remember, there are 5 additional countries that have joined this grouping. So Russia is able to send across that message. It's no longer isolated or not isolated at all, despite all the efforts made by the West. You have countries like Iran, Ethiopia, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. 5 countries have joined the BRICS summit. There are 20 others that are visiting or are visitors to this BRICS summit, and that shows Russia is not isolated. But as far as India is concerned, Rajdeep, all eyes on the meeting with the Chinese president. The optics so far have been that one, tensions are being dialed down, disengagement has taken place, but it's just a tactical first step. De-escalation and a de-induction of troops yet to take place, and unless that takes place, situation could deteriorate from bad to worse once again, and that is why India will only celebrate once de-escalation and ultimately disengagement and followed by de-induction of troops to their peacetime location takes place, Rajdeep.
Okay, we'll wait and see, Gaurav, whether that meeting takes place tomorrow. There is much speculation that it could happen as early as tomorrow. Gaurav Sawant joining us there from Kazan. Now, what has led to the anticipation of a Modi-Xi summit is the announcement of an agreement on patrolling all along the line of control by the MEA first yesterday, and today it was the Chinese Foreign Ministry that issued a statement confirming progress but remained silent specifically on patrolling issues. Let us listen in first to the two statements.
I have the opportunity now to share with you. I can share with you that over the last several weeks, Indian and Chinese diplomatic and military negotiators have been in close contact with each other in a variety of forums. And as a result of these discussions, agreement has been arrived at on patrolling arrangements along the line of actual control in the India-China border areas, leading to disengagement and a resolution of the issues that had arisen in these areas in 2020. And we will be taking the next steps on this.
Over a recent period of time, China and India have been in close communication through diplomatic and military channels on issues related to China-India border. Now the two sides have reached resolutions on relevant matters, which China speaks highly of. Going forward, China will continue to work with India to implement these resolutions.
Okay, let's raise the big question. Will Prime Minister Modi now meet Xi Jinping as is being speculated? Are India-China ties really back on track, or is this another false dawn? Is a return to the 2020 status quo pre-Galwan really possible? Can India, most importantly, trust China? Those are questions I will pose to my guests. Joining me at the very top is Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, former DGMO, joins me. General Bhatia, do you expect a de-escalation now to follow, a disengagement to follow? The Chinese statement today is rather short on specifics. While it says, yes, progress has been made, we've agreed to resolve pending issues, it's not yet clear whether disengagement, de-escalation will take place almost immediately.
Rajdeep, it's a good beginning. I must say that it's a win-win for both India and China. But having said that, I think it's just a start, and we have a long way to go. The trust has been broken. There's no trust right now. China has thrown the 5 agreements into the dustbin in April of 2020. So it's got to be rebuilt. The whole thing has to be rebuilt, and rebuilding takes a lot of time. And it's a good beginning. It's a win-win, like I said, and we have to wait and watch, and we should not let our guard down. Our vigil should be as, if not as good, better than what it was earlier. Because if we let our guard down, the trust deficit continues, and we in for another strategic surprise as we had seen in 2020 earlier.
Because General Bhatia, today Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi said Indian forces will disengage with China in Ladakh only after the situation at the LAC returns to the status quo of April 2020. Now, there is some question mark whether the Chinese are willing to return to a status quo. That would mean the infrastructure that they have built pre-2020 or in the last few years will have to be dismantled. We don't know whether this is an agreement only to return to patrolling as existed pre-2020 or whether the infrastructure will also be dismantled. So should we be more cautious before we celebrate in any manner?
There's no celebrations. I think we just agreed to disengage. The process itself will be time-consuming. It will take time. We'll have to go over each sector, sub-sector-wise, what is to be done, and that is where the fine print will come into being. As far as the agreement is concerned, at least there's a will on both sides, on Chinese side especially, and on Indian side, to disengage. Because disengagement is the first step. De-escalation will follow much later, and thereafter de-induction. So I think we should just look at disengagement, and we should look at our stance of status quo ante as of 4th of May 2020. That's the date which is given. And to that extent, we'll have to take it easy today. We'll have to take it easy tomorrow, and we'll see what the Chinese respond. And it should be, it should be equal. There should equality in it. There is mutual security in this. And we should not just go overboard that disengagement taking place, and we should see that everything will go to normal. We should continue to build our capabilities, enhance capacities, build infrastructure, invest in infrastructure, and that should continue. no rebalancing should take place, no reinduction should take place, and we should give a pat to ourselves because we are ensured no escalation after Galwan. So that is something we should, we have demonstrated strategic resolve, and that we should continue to. But China respects strength, and we should speak to China from a position of relative strength, both on the ground, militarily and diplomatically.
So in your view, therefore, this is the right time to hold that meeting between the two leaders. They haven't met, at least in a bilateral now for 5 years, not since Galwan 2020. Given that both sides have now made these announcements, do you anticipate or expect or believe there should now be some kind of a meeting by the two principals, the Chinese president and the Indian prime minister, to at least break some bit of the standoff that exists on the border?
Yes, I think a meeting will be in order. It will be good for both countries because we have to understand that China also needs India as much as India needs peace and tranquility. China also needs peace and tranquility. China has opened up too many fronts, be it South China Sea, Taiwan, East Sea, Korea, and India-China border in any case. So if the two leaders meet and there's again strategic guidance given, which is implemented, so that will be a very good thing. And the two leaders have not met for the last 5 years now. It was last was 11th October 2019, Mahabalipuram. But prior to that, they've met 18 times. Despite the 18 meetings in 5 years, we had Galwan. So the point is that whatever happens, we will have to ensure that we maintain our strength out there, we maintain our posture out there, which is robust and which is equal and mutual to the Chinese build-up.
General Bhatia, for joining me and giving us a sense of what you expect and what you hope for. I appreciate you joining me. That is the story, of course, that we will keep tracking. It's a developing story, and we'll have obviously more details on that over the next 24 hours if that meeting goes ahead. Thanks very much for joining me, General Bhatia. Let me turn from there to the big news break that's coming in from State of War, Maharashtra, where now political sources are telling us that both the major alliances have finalized or almost finalized their seat sharing. Sources now telling us that the BJP will get the biggest share in the Mahayuti as expected. More than 150 of the 288 seats in Maharashtra likely to go to the BJP. The Congress is likely to get 105 to 110 seats and the lion's share in the Maha Aghadi. That's the opposition alliance. The seat sharing in Maharashtra has been very, very difficult for both sides. Remember, both alliances have 3 parties each, and that has caused considerable friction and confusion. The Mahayuti of the BJP likely, as I said, 152 to 155. The Shiv Sena Shinde, the Chief Minister's party, 78 to 80. The NCP Ajit Pawar likely to get 52 to 54. On the other side, the Mahavikas Aghadi, Congress likely to get 105 to 110. The Shiv Sena UBT likely to get 90 to 95. And the NCP Sharad Pawar likely to get 75 to 80. So that's how the division is working out. There were meetings today that were held where Sharad Pawar was asked to play a mediator between the Congress and Uddhav Thackeray. What happened at that particular meeting? Who better to tell us than Sahil Joshi, our Mumbai Bureau Chief, joins me. Sahil, is it a done deal now, or are there still some slip-ups likely? About 15 to 20 seats on both sides, in both alliances, we are told, are still contentious.
Yes, there are certain seats which are still contentious because Congress and Shiv Sena are demanding the same seats in Vidarbha. But at least what has happened now is that the seats which are cleared by all the alliance partners, the political parties have started distributing the AB forms because the nomination filing has begins today, and that is because of that now there is hardly any time left. So most of the seats which are cleared, like Ajit Pawar almost distributed more than 40 AB forms yesterday and today. Even Shiv Sena started distributing AB forms. It's only BJP which has come up with the 99 candidates official list yet, but rest of the parties are just distributing AB forms and giving us the names, and we are putting it in various stories. But most importantly, by and large, now the seat sharing formula is clear. How many seats they are going to contest is very clear. But there is some tussle specifically between the Shinde and the BJP and the Congress and the Shiv Sena. In some places, Congress and NCP as well, but more or less in both the alliance partners, the Shiv Senas are more demanding
Why,
like
why
Uddhav
is
Thackeray
that?
is demanding
Why is
specific
it, why,
seats.
explain that to us. Why is it that the two Shiv Senas, the Uddhav Sena and if I may call them the Shinde Sena, are the ones that are being most demanding? Is it because both of them are eyeing the Chief Minister's chair, Eknath Shinde hoping to retain it, Uddhav Thackeray hoping to get it, that they really are the ones who are battling it out, not just in Mumbai, Konkan, but want to also expand to other parts?
For Eknath Shinde, now Eknath Shinde's party thinks that his strike rate, his party's strike rate was the top among the Mahayuti alliance partners. So because of that, he should be getting more number of seats. He came on the table with asking 90 seats, almost 90 seats, which has now come down to almost 80 seats odd. He's not ready to bargain below that. But despite that, there are certain seats in Mumbai where Eknath Shinde thinks that he's still not able to put his footing properly because Uddhav Thackeray still holds the lot of cadre in cities like Mumbai. So that is because of that he thinks that there are certain seats where he should be putting up the candidates,
right,
which the BJP thinks that now is the time that they can improve their tally in Mumbai, so they are not ready to leave that. On the other side, where if you look at Uddhav Thackeray, he wants to be compensated for his possible loss in areas like Thane, because please understand, in United Shiv Sena, almost half of the seats Shiv Sena win from Konkan, Mumbai and Thane region. And out of that, except Mumbai, in Konkan and Thane, Uddhav Thackeray Shiv Sena is going to have a fierce fight with Eknath Shinde plus BJP plus in some places MNS as well. So he wants to be compensated in region like in Vidarbha, maybe in Marathwada as well. And that is where this tussle is happening. He also wants to ensure that he gets at least more number of seats than what Eknath Shinde gets in Mahayuti, to emphasize that he's the real Shiv Sena and how he has managed to get more number of seats than that of Eknath Shinde.
Okay, Sahil Joshi explaining why the two Shiv Senas are the ones haggling for more seats. Maharashtra could well be renamed Mahamess. It's unfortunate, but that's the nature of the politics at the moment. We'll wait and see how that plays out. Sahil Joshi for joining me and giving us those details. Thank you very much. Let me turn from Mumbai to Bengaluru, because Bengaluru seems to be crumbling under heavy rainfall once again. An under construction building collapsed in the city earlier this evening. 3 bodies have been recovered so far, while 12 more are still trapped inside. Rescue operations are underway. Torrential rainfall has been pounding Bengaluru, leading to a total collapse of infrastructure once again. Roads waterlogged, houses inundated, and commuters left stranding. Those are the images, frightening images that are coming in at the moment from Bengaluru. Let's find out what's been happening on the ground. My colleague Sagai Raj has been reporting from there. Listen into what he had to say.
Building collapse site, you can see that this was an under construction building near Babasa Palya, which is close to Horamavu, and all of a sudden this under construction building collapsed this evening. And according to eyewitnesses over here, they claim that there were construction laborers who were stuck inside the building when it got collapsed. There is only drizzle right now here at Babasa Palya. There are no heavy rains, so there is no hurdle for them for any kind of rescue operation. The police, firefighters and other rescue operation personnel are here at the spot, and they are using all possible machineries, including JCBs, gas cutters and other things to ensure that they rescue all those people who are trapped inside this debris.
Okay, let's therefore stay in a way with what's been happening down south, because you've got now a unique situation being created. 2 chief ministers, first Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu and now Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, have ignited a debate on South India's aging population. In fact, both the chief ministers are calling now for a rethink of the existing 2-child family planning policy in their respective states. They claim that they could be hard done by because they are being penalized for having better population figures and thereby losing out on the financial support that's going in for the more populated northern states. How is all this playing out, and what is the politics behind it? And should India rethink, or parts of India rethink, a 2-child policy because of an aging population in some states? Take a look first at this special report.
For long, long, South Indian states have received praise for controlling population growth. After decades of successful family planning policies, political leaders are now wondering if it's time for a reversal. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has sparked a debate on the need for larger families to address concerns about an aging society.
Europe, China, Russia, even Japan, almost all countries. Everywhere, aging problem is catching up. There is a big problem. Now we have to realize all these things. From now onwards, we have to talk. Not only me, not only Stalin, even Karnataka, Kerala, tomorrow North India.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin joined the debate and added another dimension, that of political representation. Stalin pointed to the impending delimitation of Lok Sabha constituencies, which, if applied purely in terms of population, would result in a drastic reduction of seats in South India.
அந்த 16 செல்வங்களை பற்றி வாழுங்கள் தான் அன்றைக்கு வாழ்த்தினார்கள். இப்போ யாரும் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா 16 செல்வங்களை பற்றி வாழுங்கள் மாற்றுறது இல்லை. அளவோடு பெற்று வளவோடு வாழுங்கள் என்று சொல்லுறோம். ஆனால் இன்னைக்கு நாடாளுமன்ற தொகுதியிலெல்லாம் குறையும் என்ற நிலை வருகிற போது ஏன் அளவோடு பெற்று வளமோடு வாழ வேண்டும் என்று சொல்லுவோம். நாமும் 16 குழந்தைகளை பெற்றுக்கொள்ளலாமே என்று சொல்லக்கூடிய நிலை இன்றைக்கு உணர்வு வந்திருக்கிறது. அதையும் நாம் மறந்துவிடக்கூடாது.
According to the India Aging Report 2023, the share of elderly population in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and Himachal Pradesh is set to cross 19% in 2036. In comparison, the share in Bihar and UP will be less than 12%. Southern states also complain of losing out on central funds and grants and claim that they are being penalized for outperforming rest of the country in population control. Bureau Report, India Today.
South-North divide on population policy? No demographic dividend for the South any longer? Should the South be rethinking the two-child policy as Chandrababu Naidu and M.K. Stalin are suggesting? Is the real concern delimitation and what it will do to the political influence of the southern states? I am joined by S. Dharanidharan, the DMK spokesperson. Jyotsna Tirunagri is the TDP spokesperson. Poonam Mutreja is Executive Director, Population Foundation of India. Thank you all very much for joining us. I want to come to you, Mr. Dharanidharan, first, because let's get the politicians. Why are you all suddenly calling for a review of a two-child policy when across the world there could be the fear that the moment you call in for a review of the two-child policy, you're virtually telling people have more children? And that could lead some fear to another population explosion in some parts. We go from controlling population to exploding populations.
I see. Firstly and foremost, southern states, in particular Tamil Nadu and also Kerala, had been very successful in following Indira Gandhi's one-child policy in 1970s. So in order to incentivize the states that follow the one-child policy, that delimitation of constituencies based on population was put on hold. We had we had the amendment in 1976, and again another amendment was made in 2001 for 25 years. But now the BJP government is hinting that they would have delimitation exercise. If such a delimitation exercise is done, number of representation from southern states would reduce from 25%, that is number of seats right now from south of India is 25%, they'll reduce to 18%, and in states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar would nearly double. And in fact, overall in BJP ruled states or where they are dominant, their representation will increase from 40% to 60%. And
no, so is your fear declining? No, Mr. Dharanidharan, is your fear declining political influence or is your fear an aging population? Let's get this clear. Do you fear that your state will have an aging population, or do you fear that your state will lose its political influence?
See, firstly and foremost, it's the losing influence. In fact, even recently, after the Modi government has come to power, the Financial Commission, for the first time, has started following the 2011 census instead of the 1971 census. And because of that, the funding we receive also reduces. See, in fact, what Chief Minister said in the TNHRNC meeting was also misquoted. What he was trying to say is, in Tamil Nadu we have the saying, 16 petru peruvalvu valga, which means that have 16 children and have great life. This is Tamil historical saying. But he also went on to say that now we don't say that. Now no one says that have 16 children, have great life. We just say be married, blessed and have a great life. But he's saying the policies of the union government might shift us to that old saying. That's all he said. He never said that. He never said anything about have more babies or less babies. But this was a quote he made, which has been blown out of proportion.
No, you're saying it's just a minute. You made your point. You're claiming he's been misquoted. Just a minute. Jyotsna Tirun agreed. The fact though is Chandrababu Naidu is not being misquoted. He's making it very clear that we must have a review of the two-child policy, urging families to have more children. He's worried about an aging population. Is that his worry? Or is your worry the same as the DMK, that you will lose your political influence if your population stabilizes while North India's population continues to grow?
Sir, good evening to everyone. The point is that Naiduji's concerns, they shouldn't be dismissed as, something very, very casual. The point is, the concern of Naiduji, it's a starting point for a more rational and a broader discussion, that rises above all these political and regional concerns. Let me put it very clearly, Rajdeep sir. It is above all. It is above the political concerns. It's above the regional concerns. It's above all these concerns. It's about the state.
Now, what is the concern? What is the concern? Is it aging population? Are you worried that you will go the way China did after a one-child policy?
Sir, let me complete, sir. My concern as a state and as the Chief Minister of the state, without a population boost for the state of Andhra Pradesh, we would be risking entering into an irreversible decline, where the elderly literally outnumber the younger generation, and the economy literally stagnates there, sir. We are worried about the economic growth. We are also worried about the aging factor and also the strain that it causes on the economy. And also, sir, this proposal of Naiduji, it actually extends. It aims to extend our demographic dividend, sir, where a larger proportion of the population is of the working age. That's our concern, sir. I think, Ajit sir, I'm clear. Our concern is to, make a larger proportion of the population of the working age, where it leads to prolonged economic growth due to a larger workforce contributing to the economy.
Okay, let me bring in Poonam Mutreja. But Poonam Mutreja, before you come in, I just want to put up a graphic and I want you to explain this to our viewers. The fertility rate in southern states, Andhra Pradesh 1.7, Karnataka 1.7, Kerala 1.8, Tamil Nadu 1.8, Telangana 1.8. So this is the NFHS National Family Health Survey 2019 to 21. So they've reached replacement levels in all these states. On the other hand, we look at the states with the high fertility. Bihar 3.0, Meghalaya 2.9, UP 2.4, Jharkhand 2.3, Manipur 2.2 and Madhya Pradesh 2.0. So you have a situation where the southern states have reached replacement levels, they've plateaued their population growth, the northern states still remain above average. Is this, as Chandrababu Naidu who's triggered this debate, is he right in saying this is a matter of concern? Could it lead to an aging population, first in the south and then across the country?
It is true. We already have an aging population much higher in the south compared to the north. We have more young generation and younger people in the north compared to the south. So the south is losing its advantage. The window is there for another 20 years for the south, but another 25 to 30 years for the north for a demographic dividend. But aging is a phenomena which is happening because of longevity. While fertility is declining, longevity is increasing, which shows progress. See, southern states, especially Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, they have shown huge progress, not just in terms of family planning or what is being called population control. They invested in education, health systems, better governance. Are they telling us that they want to go back to education systems and health systems that aren't better governed? Yes, it is going to the population.
They are saying review the two-child policy. They are saying review the two-child policy. Do not focus on that. Allow, if couples want to have more children, why not?
people don't want to have more than 2 children. In fact, they want 1.8 children average for the country. If you look at NFHS figures again. So when people want to have fewer children, look at the economic cost of bringing up a child in India. Education opportunities, the demand is far more, it outstrips supply. Look at health. Again, we see the same issue. You have malnutrition across this country. It's not just northern states. We need to respect the aspirations of women and families who want to have fewer children. Don't do your politics on the body of women and their reproductive justice and rights. Look at the issue head on. The elephant in the room is delimitation. And what you need to do is, Chandrababu Naidu is in the best place to speak with his coalition partners of finding a solution that states that have done well, like Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, are not punished, whether it is number of constituencies or the amount of funding they get. And aging, suddenly Mr. Naidu has raised that issue, and I'm very glad he's raised it, but not in the context of women having more children. That is flawed, and it hasn't worked in any part of the world. Once population declines and women decide because of education, geographical location, and other social reasons, they decide not to have children, there is nothing the world has been able to do anywhere else in the world, including the countries Mr. Naidu was naming. You cannot switch women's reproductive, production on and off.
That's the question. That's the question, Jyotsna, to you first, because as I said, it's Mr. Naidu who's triggered it. We would have thought that a politician like him, who's very careful and measured normally about the words he uses, when he says, I urge families to have more kids, it can just send out the wrong signals. A lot of this is about signaling. And as is being pointed out by Poonam Mutreja, there's an economic cost involved for every family that then decides to have more children. This is the people don't, this is coming bottom up. The people don't want more children. Why are the politicians then forcing them to have more?
See, Rajiv sir, when I gave my opening comments, I was very clear. I said we need to look at the broader aspect of it, first thing. And yes, sir, certain things, as you said, might signal wrongly, but if you remember when Naidu-ji spoke about IT revolution long back, people said, no, he's speaking nonsense. He's not talking with he's actually targeting agriculture. They said that too, Rajdeep sir. You were there then too. So my point is, we have to look at it in a broader aspect, and it's not about. And again,
no, what is the broader aspect? You see, what is the broader aspect? In 2024, what he is saying, he fears that by 2047, India will have an aging population. Therefore, we should abandon a two-child policy. But is he looking at the social and economic consequences of what he's saying at the moment?
Sir, let me complete, sir. When the two-child policy was brought in, it was the same Naidu-ji again who said that, no, according to that day's circumstances and situations, we wanted that. Yes, so it is dynamic, sir. We have to understand the dynamic situations also. And again, it's just not, it's a policy, that's a proposal from our end, sir. We are not imposing, first thing. We are trying to talk to people. It's just a discussion that
you want to ignite a debate. Okay, you want to ignite a debate and have a public debate on it, which is okay. That's a valuable debate to always have. The question is the way it will be interpreted. What is being seen, Salem Dharni Dharan, is somewhere this is becoming north versus south, or south versus the rest of India, especially north and east, where population growth rates tend to be higher. Is this, as I come back to it, simply southern states worried about declining political influence, southern states worried about whether they will be penalized for their better population growth figures?
See, firstly, it's not north versus south, it's not someone versus the other. It's versus fairness versus unfairness, right? We have followed the policy of the government, and which was desirable back in the days, because our TFR overall was around 4 in 1970s. So we did the right thing. But right now, by penalizing states for following birth control and trying to bring in delimitation and to increase the proportion of seats from northern states where Prime Minister Modi's party has an advantage, as gerrymandering, that's unfair. right? We are being penalized for unfairness. So we are being penalized unfairly. Right? So this is very wrong. As you rightly said, TFR in Tamil Nadu is 1.8, so we have more deaths than number of births, and TFR of states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar is around 3.5 to 4 even now, right? So why are we being penalized here? If Prime Minister Modi and his party had encouraged states like Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, we wouldn't be having such debate. He should have taken us into confidence, and maybe in the Financial Commission, we should have been allocated more money for doing family control policy better, right? So, but not kind of disincentivized. He should have incentivized. So the problem comes from where? It comes from the policymakers in Delhi. So which is what makes us to start debates like this, right? In fact, it would have been really possible, and rightly so, if the Chief Minister vociferously said, no, I had urged the people to have more than 2 children. He could have said it. He didn't say it. But he wants to indirectly, subtly start a debate, right? Right? Why? Because BJP is forcing us in that direction. Because they want to do petty politics and do things that will show...
No, that's you see...
Which will actually increase their winning probability in the near term, but which would be...
Mr. Dharani Dharan, you're saying the BJP wants to do politics...
the country in the long term, right?
The BJP wants... There should be a separate debate on delimitation. The problem is now delimitation is getting linked to population. These could well be 2 different issues. Your concerns over delimitation should be met. Perhaps that has to be a separate debate. Poonam Mutreja, is there a worry, as we see even now, that issues are getting confused? That the political parties of the southern chief ministers are worried that their political influence will decline because of delimitation in a couple of years after the next census, as and when that happens, they will have fewer seats in the Lok Sabha. But the economic and social costs of a large population will hit other sectors of the economy. Are we confusing the economic, social and political consequences of what is being suggested?
You know, population issues in India, whichever way you look at them, there is confusion in spite of the fact that we have rich demographic data. We knew, so that the conflating the politics and dumping it on women is something that I would not expect from the 2 chief ministers, which have invested in women and have a legacy for investing in women's education and health, as I said earlier. So it is being conflated, it is being confused, and the wrong message is being sent not only to the people outside India, inside India, but to the women, that all that we do is try and control women's fertility, either grow more, have more children, or less have children, and this is so flawed. You don't expect...
But is Mr. Naidu does he have a point that we could reach an aging population by 2047? He's sending out a warning. He's sending out some kind of a warning. Is it a healthy debate to have or not have at all?
It is a healthy debate to have. In fact, I hope we can separate it from the politics of delimitation and have that debate in India, because the aging society is not only a problem for the future, it is a problem already in much of South, and that is very legitimate, his raising that question, but also in the North. And we do not have, as you know, Rajdeep, social security for older people. For months and years, we've had senior citizens sitting in Jantar Mantar because they don't have money for medicines. We need social security, we need better health system, and we need greater care and concern so that we don't have yet another disaster, which is the silver. It should be a silver dividend where we are taking care of our older people and not having the wrong debate, which is leading to asking women to have more children. Instead, let's have smart strategies. I expect that of Mr. Chandrababu Naidu for his state, like Kerala is doing. You know, Kerala is already preparing well for its aging population, investing in geriatric care, starting camps. This is an issue which they're dealing with more constructively.
So you're saying the real issue should be how do you invest in geriatric care? How do you invest to come to terms with an aging population rather than tell young India have more children? Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. It's flawed to tell young India to have more children. Let's instead take care of our aging population. We must do that in any case, regardless of the debate and the reasons behind the debate, which is totally influenced by the impending delimitation exercise, which I do want to say is unfair to the South. We have to find a good solution and debate more on this in finding a win-win solution for the southern part of India.
Okay, let's leave it there. And that is an issue which could concern every part of India, geriatric care. And maybe Mr. Naidu can offer some solutions there. He's someone who's been known to be a chief minister who offers innovative solutions. He's even talked about a skills census instead of a caste census. But has he on this occasion with his remarks perhaps changed the terms of the debate over population? That's something to think of, particularly in the context of delimitation that's not too far away. Let's take a break at this point. When we return, we'll turn to another consumer-centric story. Delhi is choking yet again under toxic air. Will anything ever change in the national capital? Back on the other side.
Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
Ho ja rangila re with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Pure Wash Electronic Seat by Kohler. Wish everything was this intelligent.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Sveda by Kohler. Wish everything cared for your skin.
एक दोस्त है जिससे बात किए बिना हम रह नहीं सकते, बातें घंटों की हों या कुछ सेकंड्स की। ये दोस्त हमेशा हमारी बात सुनता है, क्योंकि हमारा सबसे अच्छा दोस्त भगवान ही तो है। मंगलदीप, दिल से करो बात भगवान के साथ।
Ho ja rangila re with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Welcome back. Let's turn to another of our top stories. The national capital once again choking under toxic air. A heavy smog has blanketed Delhi NCR. Air quality has plummeted once again into poor and very poor categories. With the current AQI standing at 317, it could even surpass 400 in the coming days. Why is it that year after year, nothing seems to change? Here's a detailed report.
Delhi chokes under a blanket of smog. The air quality index on Tuesday was above 300 or very poor, with projections indicating it may cross 400 or the severe category in the next few days. Authorities have implemented the Graded Response Action Plan 2, ushering in a series of emergency measures aimed at controlling pollution. Parking fees have been raised, restrictions placed on generator use, CNG and electric buses are being added to the fleet, the metro has ramped up its services, offering more frequent trains to reduce road congestion. Road sweeping and sprinkling operations have intensified, particularly around traffic hotspots, as dust from roads contributes significantly to air pollution. Construction sites have also been instructed to increase dust control measures. Smog towers, however, continue to remain shut. The situation is set to worsen over the coming days as farm fires rise in the neighbouring states of Punjab and Haryana. In Kaithal in Haryana, authorities have arrested 14 farmers for stubble burning. Farmers argue that they lack proper resources to manage stubble, leaving them no choice but to burn their fields.
किसान कहाँ जाएगा? ये बताओ, गेहूं ने भी लेट होने लग रहे हैं, कोई ना साधन दे रखा गवर्नमेंट ने। एक गांव में मशीन है, हमारे गांव में पड़ला में एक मशीन है, अगर वो ना जलाएगा तो वो क्या करेगा? इतना महंगा ठेका दे रखा दाने, पहले मंडी में दाने नहीं बिक रहे।
Adding to the environmental crisis, thick layers of toxic foam float along the Yamuna River, particularly around Delhi's Kalindi Kunj area. The Delhi government on Tuesday sprayed defoamers into the river. Meanwhile, the ruling Aam Aadmi Party and opposition BJP, as usual, traded charges on who's responsible for the capital's mess.
दिल्ली के चारों तरफ केंद्र में भाजपा की सरकार है, उत्तर प्रदेश में भाजपा की सरकार है, हरियाणा में भाजपा की सरकार है, जो है राजस्थान में भाजपा की सरकार है, केंद्र में भाजपा की सरकार है। आपको ये जानकर के आश्चर्य होगा कि पंजाब के अंदर पराली जलने की घटनाएं लगातार कम हो रही हैं और इस बार उत्तर प्रदेश और हरियाणा के अंदर पराली जलने की घटनाएं लगातार बढ़ रही हैं।
10 साल में केजरीवाल बताएं कि 10 साल में उनकी सरकार ने पॉल्यूशन को दिल्ली से हटाने के लिए कौन से ऐसे कदम उठाए। आज न केवल प्रदूषण बल्कि सफाई और अन्य व्यवस्थाओं से दिल्ली बदहाल हो गई है।
आज स्थिति ये है कि दिल्ली के अंदर एयर पोल्यूशन वेरी पुअर स्थिति पे पहुंच चुका है और अरविंद केजरीवाल जी इसके लिए जिम्मेदार पंजाब की सरकार को न करने के बजाय जहां 65% स्टबल बर्निंग होती है उत्तर प्रदेश और हरियाणा को कर रहे हैं।
Bang in the middle of the festive season as winter approaches, residents of Delhi NCR could be staring at another long stretch of toxic air.
It is already 319 AQI overall in the national capital, and the impact is such that at ITO, where we are standing right now, you can see a haziness in the sky, and the iconic PWD department building at the ITO, that's also somehow covered in a hazy sky. With video journalist Sagun Bhardwaj, Amit Bhardwaj reporting for India Today from Delhi.
To an only in India kind of story, a 37-year-old man, Maurice Samuel Christian, was arrested by the Ahmedabad police for running a fake arbitration tribunal from 2019 to 2024, deceiving clients into believing he was a legitimate judge. That's right. A judge in Gujarat had created the appearance that he was actually a real one. Turned out to be fake. Take a look.
A fake judge, a fake court and a fake verdict. The Ahmedabad police have arrested 37-year-old Maurice Samuel Christian for running a fraudulent arbitration tribunal. His elaborate plot involved passing fake orders and defrauding clients. Between 2019 and 2024, Christian operated out of an office in Gandhinagar that was designed to resemble a courtroom. He targeted those with ongoing land disputes, promising to resolve their cases for a fee.
मुझे यहाँ पे ऐसा बोला हुआ था कि मुझे यहाँ वकील की ऑफिस करनी है और मेरी 21 सेक्टर में ऑफिस चल रही है। वो जगह मुझे अच्छी नहीं लग रही है, यहाँ पे हवा उजास ज़्यादा है, इसलिए यहाँ पे मुझे ऑफिस करनी है और वकील की ऑफिस करनी है। यहाँ पे 10 या 15 स्टाफ वाले भी थे और यूनिफॉर्म में सब आ रहे थे और यहाँ वकील की ऑफिस चला रहे थे।
The fraud came to light after civil judge Hardik Desai filed a complaint based on instructions from a higher court.
उसने क्या किया है, आर्बिट्रेटर तरीके काम करते हुए उसने जो गवर्नमेंट पक्षकार हो जहाँ एक तरफ और दूसरी तरफ अदर पार्टी हो, ऐसी जो ज़मीनें हैं उनमें कुछ लिटिगेशन या किसी ने कुछ विवाद दाखिल करवा रखा है, तो उसमें उसने खुद ने जो अवार्ड है वो जाहिर कर दिया अवार्ड के अंदर कि इस पार्टी को इतना दिया जाए, इस पार्टी को इतना दिया जाए, ऐसे करके उसने अवार्ड जाहिर कर दिया है।
For nearly 5 years, Christian manipulated vulnerable individuals entangled in land disputes in a courtroom that never was. Bureau Report, India Today.
Okay, let's turn to a good news story as we end the show tonight. India has been battling multiple landslide tragedies. The latest, remember, was in Wayanad earlier this year, where 200 people at least lost their lives. Now, IIT Delhi scientists and engineers have developed an app to map landslide-prone areas and hopefully curb the loss of life. You take a look at that story as I leave you tonight. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Landslides now a common occurrence in the Himalayas and Western Ghats. This year, over 200 people died in Wayanad as 3 villages were buried by a landslide. Scientists and engineers at IIT Delhi have developed an app for mapping landslides. The developers claim that app, called Cascade, can give the landslide history of any area.
तो इसमें जो ग्रे एरिया है बेसिकली वो लैंडस्लाइड अफेक्टेड एरिया है, लेकिन इसका आपको मैन्युअली मैपिंग करने का भी ज़रूरत नहीं है। इस जो वाइट है वो हमारे टूल ने एक्सपोर्ट करके दिया है, हमने इसको लोड करके आपको दिखाया है। लेकिन इस तरह की मैपिंग आप किसी भी लैंडस्लाइड 2014 से लेकर आज तक, बिकॉज हम लोगों ने ये एक ओपन सोर्स टूल बनाया है, पब्लिकली अवेलेबल है, फ्रीली अवेलेबल है पब्लिक के लिए, आप इसको यूज़ कर सकते हैं और कोई भी लैंडस्लाइड आप खुद से ही मैप कर सकते हैं।
The developers claim the app will help citizens to detect if the land they buy is fit for building houses or not.
हर जगह ग्राउंड रूटिंग करना संभव नहीं है, तो इस तरह के टूल आपको रिहैबिलिटेशन एफर्ट्स, लॉन्ग टर्म प्लानिंग, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्लानिंग, लोगों के लिए कहाँ पे रिहैबिलिटेट करना है, उस तरह के प्लानिंग में ये टूल काम आ सकती है।
The app has details of landslides since 2014. Developers say it can be used for infrastructure planning, rescue and rehabilitation efforts. Bureau Report, India Today.
Cola makes you wish everything was as vibrant.
हो जा रंगीला रे with Motorola's incredible range of smartphones.
Hello, Moto.
Pure Wash Electronic Seat by Kohler. Wish everything was this intelligent.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Hi, I am AI anchor Sana, bringing the top headlines for you, presented by Motorola. China confirms agreement with India to end Ladakh border standoff, says it has reached an agreement with India to end the standoff between the armies of the two nations in eastern Ladakh. India extends Taslima Nasreen's residence permit. Taslima expressed her gratitude to Home Minister Amit Shah. Haryana government suspends 24 agriculture department officials amid rising farm fire incidents.
समाजवादी पार्टी देश के संविधान पर भरोसा नहीं करती, देश की स्वतंत्र न्यायपालिका पर भरोसा नहीं करती और गाली गलौज की भाषा का इस्तेमाल कर रही है। ये बहुत दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, बहुत निंदाजनक है और समाजवादी पार्टी को प्रोफेसर रामगोपाल यादव के खिलाफ कठोर कार्रवाई करनी चाहिए। वो अपने नाम में प्रोफेसर लिखते हैं लेकिन उनके आचरण शैतान बच्चों जैसे हैं।
तो अपनी बाबरी मस्जिद और ये मंदिर दिख रहा है,
सर रविवार की बात है।
थोड़ा यार, वो तो जो तमाम इसी तरह की बातें कहते रहते हैं, तो शुड आई टेक नोटिस ऑफ देम? तो अपनी बाबरी मस्जिद और ये मंदिर दिख रहा है,
सर रविवार की बात है।
थोड़ा यार, वो तो जो तमाम इसी तरह की बातें कहते रहते हैं, तो शुड आई टेक नोटिस ऑफ देम?
So sorry.
Hello and welcome to an India Today special broadcast that comes to you from Kazan in Russia. I'm Gaurav Sawant. A major